Today is February 24th. The moon is in Capricorn. Saturn is in Pisces. Jupiter is in Gemini. And Mercury is also in Pisces. Oh, where's Neptune? It's also in Pisces. Okay. That's my grounding jar. For the last few days, I've been reflecting on the things that I had to do to get to where I am. The word that would be a perfect umbrella term for what I've done is let go. Release and let go and let go and release. Basically make space. There was a lot of clutter in my subconscious. There's a lot less, but there's still things that can be cleared out. And so I really wanted to talk about the energy of transformation and when you know you're ready for it. I was in Miss Pearl's Healing Through Seduction winter cohort, and there was something she said in one of our group sessions that really hit me. Basically, she says she'll give you the recipe of how to make something, but you have to add your own touch to it, talking about, the rituals that she gives us, the teachings that she shows us, the principles that she teaches, and how essentially it's for us to build our own practice, right? She was talking about her experience and that healing through seduction isn't necessarily a burlesque class or workshop or anything like that, but it is a space of transformation. Around that time was the time that I had literally filmed the last video on the Aquarius new moon. I was talking about how I got to start my business, the altering effect, how it came about and why it is. Basically, transformation was what caused it. Altering is basically transforming yourself. The way that I look at it is it's transforming yourself with the energy of elevating yourself. And the way that I experienced it before I got to name it, and I learned valuable lessons about not resisting when you get a ping of inspiration and an idea that is dropped into you. And it's funny because I saw a thread that was a TikTok video where a woman was talking about Michael Jackson waking up out of bed in the middle of the night to go flesh out an idea that he received because he didn't want Prince to get it. I don't know if that's true or not. It's kind of an anecdote. What she was saying was, when you get an idea, it's usually a hit from the divine. It's divine inspiration. And that divine inspiration is not yours. It's not yours to keep. And so do not sit on it believing that it does not have an expiration date. And the expiration date was her words. I interpret it a little differently, but it's the same message essentially. I've been on both sides. I slept on the idea and saw it elsewhere. Someone else had come out with it. I, another time, did not sleep on the idea. An idea came to me and I jumped on it. It propelled a lot of things forward for me. Things started to make sense once I jumped on this idea, but I was fighting this idea. But I had enough trust in myself and I had tested my magic enough that I knew when my intuition was giving me an idea like this, the possibilities were so big that there was no way that it wouldn't end up out there somewhere, somehow. However, I knew it was given to me at the time it was given to me because I could execute it. I had all the tools. I had everything I needed. I just didn't necessarily have all of the confidence in that time. And it was around the time where Mars retrograded in Leo, or Mars was in Leo and it was about to retrograde. It was around that time where I jumped on the idea and then I started to have second thoughts and I was like, oh, I'm losing confidence in this. And I was I knew enough that it doesn't matter if I have confidence or not. If I push through, it'll see itself, I will be elevated with this because it was given to me. I trust myself, my team, and the people that are supporting me in this realm and outside of it, in the spiritual realm, to really help me put this out. Back in January, when I saw the Stand Dare to Dream contest and I felt that nudge, I already knew that was my higher self telling me, go ahead, do this, and the next step will come to you, whatever it may be. And so literally I was filming that and I was editing that while I was in the group session. It was on a Saturday, and so I was filming that weekend, and I was watching myself explain my story and how much transformation I had gone through. And that literally I was telling the story of how I started to realize that styling wasn't enough, because as much as I loved fashion and I loved helping people, I didn't feel like I was getting to the root of what people really needed help with. And again, like, I love styling and I love aesthetics. I love beauty. I have Venus in my second house. I have a Taurus MC. It's very aligned with how I work and do things. Also, my Venus is in Virgo, and Virgo, 6th house energy, that's work, and service. And so, like, I love to serve in a beautiful way, but that's not all that I have, I have my Scorpio Jupiter in the 3rd house, right? I have Pisces in the 8th house. I have Scorpio IC. And then I have my Cancer Sun in the 12th house. And so I have a lot of placements that encourage me to dig deeper. And boy, I didn't realize it at the time. When I was telling the story of the word power coming to me for my 2024, something I forgot to mention, unless I did mention it, I'm not really sure, but maybe I didn't emphasize it, because the first thing that started to happen was my voice. My inner voice became very loud, and it was no longer suppressed. If I suppressed it, I had to actively suppress it, and so I was aware that I was suppressing it. And then I had to do the shadow altering of getting curious. Why do I feel like I need to suppress my inner voice? Why do I feel like that is going to make me safe? Memories have been slowly coming back to me, first in my dreams, and then, now my dreams are totally opened up, where there's like whole other things that are working out in them. And I'm starting to realize when other people's energies are getting entangled, and I'm even able in my dreams to tell that this is not my memory. This is connected to someone else. This is that thing. Like, I'm able to sort out what I'm seeing in my subconscious in my dreams, which is amazing, because dreams have always been something that was like, whoa, what the hell's going on here? The only time that I was able to decipher my dreams was when I knew they were premonitions and they were telling me what's about to happen. And those dreams always had a certain filter that I was like, ooh, this is too real. This is like, it's like a memory of the future is the best way I could describe it, because it wasn't a memory I'd had, and it was very real, and it looked like a memory. It looked like I was looking at a memory. And so those dreams, I knew, damn, this is about to happen. And it may not happen just like this, but the moral of the story is this is about to happen. 2 nights before the Aquarius new moon, I jumped on the inspiration that I received after I took the time, made the space to sift through my emotional resistance towards doing it. And I realized the reason was because I was ashamed of my story. With my Saturn returning, I took for granted and didn't emphasize power being in my 10th house, with my voice being unlocked, my Gemini parts in my 10th house being elevated, being altered. Saturn had a lot to do with that. And I even met the version of myself. I saw her first. And it was a beautiful experience, actually, because Miss Pearl Noir is very much given the gift of being a mirror, to the point where I saw her face change before my eyes. I was like, she started to look like the Little Mermaid, literally. She started to look like Halle Bailey from The Little Mermaid to me. And they're both very beautiful women, but I'd never thought that they looked similar because I saw her face morph in front of me. Like, I was like, what's happening? I've seen people like favor each other, but I had been in classes and workshops with her for months now, and I think it was in the summertime, maybe August or something, where I'm looking at her, she's showing us a routine, and I'm looking at her face change, and I'm like, what's happening? This is weird. This is so strange. And so I told her about it, and she basically told me she's a mirror. This is part of her gift. And I was like, and she, gave me some prompts and like helped me to look into what I was seeing, because there was some energy, like some scorpionic energy that was starting to show up. And I was like, what's that? Well, I have Pisces in my 8th house. That's Scorpio energy. And that's where Saturn is. So my Saturn had returned in my 8th house, which Scorpio rules the 8th house, and my Pisces energy is there. So I'm watching this woman who her gift or her power is reflection. I'm watching her turn into the Little Mermaid in front of my face, and she has like this like cloaked kind of, how do I explain this clearly? It was kind of like a clouded, cloaked, black, sheer energy. I don't know how to explain it better, but I've seen it on Scorpios. So I knew it was scorpionic energy that I was perceiving. And so yeah, she helped me to like understand that might be a reflection. And she asked me some questions that helped me to prompt, my own curiosity within myself, and asked like, yeah, it was really strange because I'd never seen that on her before. And so I was wondering, what is it I'm seeing? Because why is it all of a sudden I'm seeing this? And in that class, she was literally asking us, to conjure up our inner diva. That and other classes, we were interacting with our inner diva, and I was given clues before where that red fan behind me was actually a big part of it. Ring the Alarm was a song that came to my mind, and that's not really a song that I like that. Like, I don't listen to it, and it's pretty old now. It's not some song, it's not on any of my playlists. I never listen to it unless it's playing somewhere, and I had not heard it in years, as far as I'm aware. And so when I heard that song, when I asked a question or we were doing something, I was kind of like interested, and I shared it, and she, if I'm not mistaken, she said the word siren, or I was saying I was hearing sirens in the background. So I was given like, hints dropped along the way. So this is how I started to come to understand that this part of me has a lot to do with my power. Power for me has a lot to do with Saturn, has a lot to do with scorpionic energy, and it has a lot to do with Gemini energy for me personally. Also Lilith. There are shadow placements that I emphasize. Your Scorpio ruled house is one of them. Where you have Pluto is another one. Your 8th house is another one. And Lilith is another one. So all of those placements are the placements that were coming up around power for me. In that group meeting, she was explaining how she helps people heal through seduction. It's so crazy because it's like I heard her talking, but I saw myself, and I heard myself saying the same things because I was editing the video where I said it. And what she was expressing and sharing, and I felt like, oh my God, I get it. Because what it is I call her a transformation guide, and she really helped to bring out this Pisces part of me that's in the 8th house, and that Saturn rules for me. And one thing that I love about her as an embodied teacher is that she stands by her boundaries. And because she's so she stands by her boundaries, and she tells you to stand by yours as well. But it's so funny because I was just telling my Nana about this. I've always known this, but as I got older, I saw it more, that children do not listen to you. They follow you, they copy you, they look at what you do. And so I'd been saying for the longest time to anyone who I knew was having a child or who had children and they were coming around me, I would let them know, be careful. Not really be careful what you do, but like be careful how you feel about the child around you. Because however you feel about the child around you is probably a reflection of yourself. If you feel like something the child that is around you is doing, you feel a certain way about it, or, you know, towards what they do and to them because of what they do, you really should reflect on yourself, because children are the best mirrors. They are the best mirrors. Oh my God, children will teach you to break or change a habit so fast because they will pick it up and do it right in front of you and make you look at them and yourself crazy. Like, where did you learn this? Who the hell taught you this? And if you are self-aware, you will reflect back and think to yourself and wonder, did you learn that from me? I have a lot of Sun energy and a lot of Gemini energy. And those are both childlike energies. I think of Gemini as a child because of the third house that it rules, which is like, it's usually your elementary house, you know, like when you're growing up, it's like cousins, it's like neighborhood, it's like commuting and like things like that. But like it has a lot to do with what you learn in grade school and that age, like short distances, school, like, you know, small community. And the ninth house, the Sag ruled house, is the house that's like, you know, long distance travel, higher education, college, things like that. And so it's like the bigger picture of these smaller details of the third house. The way that I think about Gemini energy is very youthful, and also like I'm ruled by the sun. I was given the message that I have the eternal energy of a child, and like I am the oldest child you will ever meet. Back to the workshop, right? Back to the class. In the class, she was explaining what you need in order to have this transformation, what you need to do in order to have this transformation, how you need to be in order to have this transformation, or at least that's how I received it. And last month, I went to Anna Brooks' forgiveness lab. It hit the way it needed to hit for me in that moment. And it was like, you know, you could be willing, you could be ready, and you could be capable or able, something to that effect. And it was like, in that moment, I was hearing what Anna shared. I was hearing what Anna shared in that moment. And I was hearing what Pearl was saying. And it was like, it clicked for me because I realized that there's a point that you need to get to in order to be ready or willing and receiving of transformation. I was hearing exactly what Pearl was saying. I was also reflecting on the times when I was trying to assist someone in transformation and they were not ready. They were willing, they were able, but they were not ready. Or they were able, but they weren't willing. Or they were willing, maybe they felt that they were ready, but they were not able. And so I feel like when it comes to not being able, I personally believe if you're willing, but you're not able, you will be given the opportunity to be able, because ableness and able-bodiedness is something I personally feel is perception-based. Because it all depends on the situation now. Like, let's be sensitive here. Where there's a will, there's a way. And sometimes, and in my own experience, I realized that you have to make room to receive what you're asking for. And if there is no room, that's usually the reason why you are not receiving what you're asking for. And if for some reason the universe gives you what you ask for and you don't have room to receive it, do you see how that's a little effed up? Because it's like, oh, you'll get it, but you won't be able to keep it. And then you'll be asking yourself, why did this happen, right? And you could beat yourself up about it, but sometimes that happens so that you could see what you want, how to get it, and how to clean up so you can keep it, right? So I'm saying all that to say, when I heard Ms. Pearl explain what she explained, I knew exactly what she meant, because I had been styling and I was thinking of clients who, you know, I dressed them the way that they asked. I dressed them for what they wanted. I got them exactly what they asked for, but they couldn't receive it because they didn't have the confidence. They didn't have the self-belief. They didn't have the self-worth to own the look that they wanted to have, to wear, to present as. And that's when I started to realize that styling, personally for me, wasn't enough, because I was using a lot of psychology in my styling sessions to assist my clients to elevate their thought processes, you know, and help them to shift their perspective. That was like one of the things I loved to do, because I feel like it always amazed people. But I always, like I said, I always felt limited with time, which I forgot to mention in my last videos. The reason that I felt limited with time was because I had no boundaries. So when Saturn returned, it kind of like emphasized my power in a way where boundaries was something that I saw modeled through Miss Pearl, and it helped me a lot to understand how I could be more powerful and how I could be more helpful with people in the way that they wanted to transform, you know, like 8th house, Saturn, Pisces, all of that. And it's like all right there. You know what I mean? That whole thing. Back to when I saw people, you know, this example I was reflecting on of how I wanted to help people transform, but either they weren't willing, they weren't ready, or they weren't able. Reflecting back to the part that I forgot to mention, the reason why I was kind of resistant telling my story the last time on the Aquarius new moon, I was like slightly embarrassed and a little bit ashamed that it was getting fired. That was my motivation, which is so crazy to think, because a lot of the stories that motivated me were people who left their jobs or were fired. And actually, I think it was usually the people who got fired. You know what I mean? And so, like, it made a lot of sense, because it's like, of course, they'd speak to me because this is what happened. You know, I resonated. I related on that level. But childhood wounds, you know, I have Chiron in Virgo. There's a wound around perfectionism. There's a wound around being the good child, you know, being the child that's like looked to as an example. I've held that weight for so long, and there's so many instances where I think back to friends, to parents of friends who would look at me and compare me, and the way that I held that up, that pressure, that burden, because I knew that my family would feel proud of me, that these people are considering me in this way. But I knew that that means that anything I do that is not looked at as exceptional, or that is looked at as a disappointment, that's a big crashing down. And there were so many moments where I would mess up and it felt like a big crashing down, because the disappointment was so potent, you know what I mean? And it felt like a full body rejection, and it was so hard. It was so hard to receive. When I was reflecting back to the fact that my story started with being fired, and that was my motivation, and the fact that that was my motivation, I hate to love Capricorn. And now that Saturn fully returned and I'm like 30, and I'm like sitting in the energy of 30, and I love it, by the way. I love it here. I'm gonna stay 30 forever. The way that I love my Capricorn energy, and the way that I appreciate Saturnian energy, the way that I understand where I show up and work a bit too hard, because Pluto was in my 6th house that whole time I was transiting in Capricorn. And so my whole work experience was working too hard. Working too hard. And having the Virgo Chiron and also Virgo Venus conjunct each other. So it's like, I love this thing, but I'm like, having this weird energy around it and like this weird relationship with it. At the same time, I have Uranus there and I have Neptune there. And I have like a lot of Aquarius energy there too, plus Uranus. It's like, I come into a place, I work very hard, and then I do my best to change it. I do my best to innovate it and make things easier, make things more efficient. There was one place where I had a huge inventory in the basement. I literally came from a place that the inventory was a closet, okay? The inventory was a closet, and we worked efficiently. And we made it work with a very small team. I get to this team that's a lot bigger, and they have a whole basement. When I tell you, I was appalled at how they were using the space. I was so like, Miranda and Myrtle was pissed, okay? They were like, this is so inefficient. What? I'm like, should I shout her all the way out? You know who you are? Because my manager allowed me to take as much time as I needed. She would work with me to sneak me time so that I could totally rework that basement inventory and alphabetize things and put them in size order. And like, I just felt like I could breathe. I could do my job so much better. Like, you know, running up and down the stairs to get inventory, that's like a huff and puff job. And it's worse when you run down the stairs to get something after you check the system and you can't freaking find it. You know how many sales we lost like that? That's so stupid. So I said, I will take the time and I will reorganize this whole system. And guess what? I was like, at one point, because, you know, there were some people that were helping me and they wanted to, but they couldn't always do it. And I was like, listen. If you just let me do this by myself, like, you know what I mean? Because there was times where some people did not want to prioritize the inventory. I'll just say it like that. And they had their reasons, but I had mine. I'm like, if I'm taking a long time to find what I'm looking for and I'm trying to sell to somebody, this is stupid. You know what I mean? You're literally losing money. Why? And you're losing like morale, getting frustrated employees and upset customers. That makes no sense to me. So I was like, listen, y'all stay upstairs. It's fine. It's no big deal. You know what I mean? I will do it by myself. Virgo Venus, I actually love organizing things, especially by color, number order, alphabetically. That makes my Venus so happy. It's like so satisfying. Do you know how many jobs that I was hired for because I said I would do the tedious work, because I knew I liked doing the tedious work? I love it. I love it, okay? Organizing people's closets, actually, I love that, okay? But I will only do that if I know that you have the insides to match the closet you want to be rocking. There's no point in organizing your closet and every time you go in there, you have all these fabulous clothes, but you put it on and you're like, oh, you feel like, you know, you're not worth it to wear. Like, what? Oh, no. It's like the same thing. And it took some time for me to fully get to the root of what I really saw in people that needed help, because I needed to do it for myself first. And I didn't fully understand what I needed to do for myself because my 12th house water sign sun is also reflective. And so I also get to see a lot of people's shadows. It's kind of easy for me sometimes to pinpoint why you're showing up the way you are. But it took some time, and literally when Saturn retrograde, I was born during Saturn retrograde. So when Saturn retrograded, it was like I was dunked all the way into the shadow. And it was like, get familiar here because you're going to be working with shadows all the time. I was seeing them all the time, but I wasn't working with them. I wasn't playing with them. And now the reason why, literally the tagline, and that was given to me as well, because let me tell you, I had to alter a few shadows around that too. When the ping of inspiration came, playtime for your shadow, I was like, whoa, hold on. A lot of my trauma little T and big T, was coming up around the implication of all of what that could mean. We'll talk about that another time. I'm sure it'll come up another time, but like, let's just say there's a lot that happens with Lilith in the 10th house and Mars and Gemini in the 10th house, okay? Having that, remember I told you Gemini energy is like childlike energy for me, so a lot of my inner child has to do with that placement, and it's very powerful. I'm trying to stay on track. Anyway, I've discovered on the same realm that for me, shadows are a lot like children. They all the way throw temper tantrums. And the way that I feel about children in general, as a giant child myself, I don't know that a lot of people understand this perspective when I speak about children this way, but I really do respect children as little people. And I understand that they are vulnerable little people. You know what I mean? I feel like sometimes people forget that children literally come out of the womb and it's like they're given to you as trainees. You know what I mean? Like, yes, they are babies and they do need to be protected always. And also they need to be trained up. Like, literally, they need to be trained up. So how do you best train someone? Like, giving them a book on life, it's like, well, some people will say they're books on life, I guess. But personally for me, the giant child that I am, the best way that I learned is very hands-on. That's why I said also Gemini energy, you know, hands-on. So you want to teach a child, you show them. You want to teach a child, you show them. That means don't tell them what not to do. They will do exactly what you said not to do because you didn't show them what to do. You know what I mean? That frustrates me like no end. I started to understand that childlike energy is energy that needs to be shown with a lot of patience and a lot of gentleness. And when I think of shadows like that, little people that need to be trained up, literally elevated, altered, shown the way, right? A lot of the time our shadows are throwing temper tantrums because they feel like they're not heard. Same like children. You're not hearing me. I am hungry. I'm tired. I don't understand what's going on because I only got here 2 years ago. None of this makes sense to me. And you want me to use my words? You want me to be patient when my belly is not as big as yours? You know what I mean? There's so many things that children will show you where it's like your expectations of them are kind of unreasonable. Especially if you don't model that behavior to them first. So anyway, because I think of shadows like children, and because I think of children as like kind of like colleagues, but like very, very little and very, very vulnerable and very, very fun. Playtime for your shadow is like, it makes so much sense to me because it's like, why does shadow work have to be work? Why can't we play? Why can't we create? Why can't we do things a little differently? Why does it have to be force? Why can't it flow? There's so many things where I feel like perspectives can be shifted and success can be had. So because of that, I'm hosting not a workshop, but a playtime to show you how to create birth chart mood boards for first your rising sign. And that'll be happening April 6th. That's a Sunday, the perfect day for childlike play. And it's right at the beginning of spring, pretty much. So we have Aries season starting out spring is for your rising sign. And I'll be showing you how to use the Pinterest algorithm kind of like a tool for divination.